And with us in the studio this morning, CBS News legal analyst Jack Ford. Jack, good to have you with us. This is such a difficult case for so many people to even think about. Looking at this apparent inconsistency, though, in the story we're hearing from McQueary based on the grand jury report, which is not the full testimony, correct? That's just a report.
It's just
and then
the full
also
testimony
that email
doesn't get released. So people have to understand that the report is just essentially a compilation, an accumulation, some general observations of what happened inside.
But when we look at the conflicting statements there from the university police, from this email that McQueary reportedly sent to a friend, I mean, what does all of that tell you?
I think that the important part is, as you said, the apparent inconsistency, because the reality is we haven't heard everything yet from Mike McQueary or anybody else for that matter. You know, I think a good mantra to follow here is more facts are always better than less facts before you start reaching conclusions. But you look at Mike McQueary, and there's an email, and it seems to suggest that he went to law enforcement folks. Now, it may well be that what he's saying, and we won't know until he's able to answer questions in detail, it may well be that what he's saying in his mind, I went to the vice president of the university who was in charge of the university police. So perhaps in his mind, he's saying, that gets me there. Because clearly the state college police are saying, we don't have any record of it, so where did it possibly happen? So it may well be that it's just not, we haven't heard all of the details from him or from anybody else for that matter.
Let's talk about Jerry Sandusky for a second. He does a telephone interview on NBC. Would you, as his attorney, have advised him to do that?
That's an awfully tough question. You know, and a friend of mine just said, you know, if you're trying to get out of a hole, do you dig deeper to get yourself out of the hole? Generally speaking, defense lawyers don't like to get their clients out there. Two reasons. One, you lose control of it, and if you're the defense attorney, you want to have as much control as you can. And the second is, you're not exactly sure what's going to be said and how it's going to come across. Occasionally you might, if you have a client who you believe in their innocence or you feel they've got a compelling story to tell and they can tell it well. I suspect that what happened here is they looked at this and they said, you know what, we're just getting pummeled out there. Yeah. I mean, we're being depicted as a monster, and we've got to at least somehow get our story out there, and maybe it'll help. It certainly won't hurt anymore. And I think that my guess is that's what their theory was. Get him depicted as a person who says, yeah, it's tough to tell.
But it's interesting, too, that on the same night he gives that interview, his attorney gives an interview to CNN, and he says, you know, do I think it's okay to shower with dumb boys? No. And this is the attorney saying. I mean, it would almost seem like...
Well, it is, but you know what the defense is going to be? The defense is going to be, is he odd? Yes. Is he doing things that you and I would not consider doing? Yes. Is it awkward? Do you feel uncomfortable hearing him talk about it? Yes. But the defense is going to argue, but he didn't think he was committing a crime. He didn't intend to commit a crime. Now, obviously, that's going to be up to the jury to decide. You're going to have a whole slew of different facts coming in, apparently.
This has opened up Penn State to a whole lot of civil litigation.
Yeah. You know, there's going to be a docket full of civil litigation. Now, Penn State people might say, well, how can they be sued? They're an employer, and there are situations when an employer can be held responsible for the conduct of an employee, if it's negligent or even if it's sort of willful misconduct. So I'm sure right now they're circling their legal wagons saying, how are we going to handle this? Because there are going to be a lot of them out there.
This is really only the beginning on so many levels. Jack, nice to have you here this morning. Thanks.